We're honored to have joining us once again, who's been with us a couple of times before about his past books. Jim DeFelice is with us this morning. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Hey, good morning. It's always a pleasure to be down here.
Are you still in New York? I mean, I saw your Twitter page that the streets were empty at 5.
Actually, I am in New York, but I'm kind of projecting my mental image to much warmer places. We didn't get the blizzard, and thank God for that. But we did get about 8 inches. So
yeah, well, that's blizzard for us. That would be we would be completely stopped in our tracks. No, we wouldn't go anywhere for days and days. Now, Jim is also co-author of American Sniper. He was on with us with Chris Kyle back years ago when that came out, and has been on with us as well, too, about Codename Johnny Walker, now out in paperback. I want to ask you, first of all, about American Sniper, because I know everybody does. What a great movie. What a wonderful portrayal. Do you feel like it was fair to the book?
I have to say that Bradley Cooper, and obviously I knew Chris very well, but Bradley Cooper has him. I mean, there were times when I was, especially the first time I saw it, you just thought. It's really eerie, especially since Chris is no longer with us. So it makes it really even stranger. But then you get the critiques that come out. When I first heard it was Michael Moore who was doing the criticism. I just sort of immediately dismissed it. Well, there you go.
And you have an excellent you have an excellent response on your website.
Thanks. There's a lot of that's the price of success in America, and people criticize it. But I was thinking last night that the movie, especially, to have so many people going to see it and to generate so much excitement, to get such critical response, six Academy Award nominations, phenomenal, and on top of that, to generate, a discussion. A lot of the discussion, admittedly, is just silly, but some of it is real. Some of it, people are saying, should we go to war? And I think that's legitimate. What popular art form, which is, Hollywood, it's, there to entertainment, make money, but also generating, legitimate discussion. I think that's incredible, and that's a testimony to the people that made the film, from from Clint Eastwood, the director, all the way down to the prop people. So it's really just stunning, and it's really humbling to have had, a part in it.
And when Clint Eastwood was able to get that project, I understand it didn't start with him, so that was, I think he put his stamp on it.
Yeah, absolutely, he did. Steven Spielberg, who was lined up to be the first director. Excuse me, I'm sure he would have been great too.
Yeah, of course.
Mr. Eastwood, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's all I could say.
Well, let's talk about Codename Johnny Walker, because we had a chance to talk again with you about that before when it first came out, and now out in paperback, and it is an incredible story. And again, this is a story that puts you into a different perspective of the war in Iraq.
Absolutely. It's a story about an Iraqi who was literally down to his last few cents, and just happened to luck into, as he puts it, a job with some American MPs as an interpreter, and from there he became one of the most highly regarded, highly respected interpreters, or they call them terps, in the war. He worked with the SEALs. He happened to have worked, incidentally, with Chris Kyle briefly in Ramadi, and everybody that worked with him praises him for just his wisdom, his courage, most of all, and his sense of humor. Johnny, as I don't know if you recall, but last year we spent about 6 weeks together on the road.
Right.
And flying with Johnny. Johnny's a really, really brave guy, but until it comes to airplanes, I have to say that flying with Johnny was an experience. I love him, but I'm not sure if given the choice that I'll fly with him again.
Well, but again, codename Johnny Walker, codename for a very good reason. While he was so respected by the American forces and MPs, et cetera, and those who got to know him, he came in under a lot of scrutiny and threats in his native country, right?
Oh, absolutely. He escaped. He escaped at least 2 assassination attempts, probably a few more. We detail. Well, there's one very dramatic one that we detail in the book, where he was being followed in a car, managed to get the car that the 2 men that were pursuing him to skid around. He jumped out of his car and used his I believe emptied his AK-47 on them, then set their car on fire. And the only way a mob came up, and the only way at that point that he was able to escape was by claiming that the 2 men that he had just killed were working with the Americans. So it gives you, kind of an idea of how difficult things were at different points. And
the difficult moral choices that anybody has to make in that kind of situation.
Absolutely, because inside he, especially by this time, he loved America. He and was eventually able to come to America. One of the other things that happens with Johnny is that he viewed Iraq as a place that could get better, and he viewed himself as part of the solution, and hoping to make it a better place, to raise his kids. Unfortunately, as time went on, he had so many enemies, and they were enemies both Sunni and Shia. I mean, basically from both sides of the spectrum, that he knew that not only his life was in danger, which I don't think bothered him that much, but his kid's life was in danger, and that was the reason that he decided to take the offer from the SEALs to come back to America.
But that offer was delayed, wasn't it? I mean, didn't he have a little hard time getting out?
Absolutely. He well, first of all, Johnny had to accept that there really was no future for his family. But then the SEALs worked for months and months, getting all the paperwork together. The irony there is that Congress and the president had passed a law that was supposed to make it easier for interpreters.
Right.
The problem, though, in Iraq is, the paperwork. We think, for instance, everybody has a birth certificate. Now, that's not actually true in Iraq.
No.
So, there's a lot of paperwork, and unfortunately, there's a lot of interpreters who are still, or a lot of families, who worked for Americans, not just interpreters, still in Iraq. I think we have an obligation to help those people if they want to come to America to come.
What is his outlook now? Now that the book has been out, you've done the tour, it's now coming out in paperwork. Again, Jim DeFelice, our guest here today, the co-author of American Sniper with the late Chris Kyle, but also now codenamed Johnny Walker, about this Iraq interpreter. What is his outlook now?
Well, when you talk to Johnny, it doesn't matter what's going on with Johnny, with his family, what the weather is, whether he's sick or anything. It's always, I'm living the dream, brother. Compared to where he was, he's living the dream.
Wow.
His outlook for Iraq, I think it's troubled. I think that he still feels that the corruption is is really killing his country. And of course, there's ISIS, which has taken over much of the area where he once lived. And Johnny is an optimistic guy, so he's hopeful that eventually there's going to be a solution, and eventually people will do the right thing. But it's definitely a long haul for Iraq.
Okay. Again, Jim DeFelice, did you see this as this also being picked up maybe for a movie?
Well, we have an option. The option was just renewed, so we're very hopeful that that it'll be a movie. And
this is a story. Again, this is a perspective I think that many of us, we needed to see it 10 years ago, but it's a perspective that we need to see still to help us understand what was going on. What Chris did and others have done have helped us immensely understand PTSD and helped us to understand many other things. But from the Iraqi standpoint, about those who desire a better country, this is a perspective we need.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
And again, codename Johnny Walker from Jim DeFelice. You can pick that up in paperback now, right? So.
Absolutely, it's hardcover and paperback, and and it's also an ebook. So we got all those formats going.
There you go, and you can go to jimdefelice.com. That's DEFELICE, jimdefelice.com, and you can find out more there about his other books as well too. What are you working on now? I know every time we talk to an author and they're out on a tour, they're already a book ahead.
Well, I'm working on a book actually with Chris's wife, Taya, and that should be out right around Mother's Day. And after that, Ivan Castro, who is a Green Beret, he was wounded in Iraq, blinded, as a matter of fact, and yet managed to stay in active service. That's going to be the next book. So,
okay. Well, we're looking forward to hearing from you on those, too. All right.
Great.
All right, Jim, thanks for being with us here today on Coastal Daybreak on the talk station, FM 107 and AM 1240. JimDeFelice.com, the website, give you all the details that you'll need to know. We'll have more to come in just a bit here on Coastal Daybreak on the talk station. Also, the Star team to join us after our weather update at the bottom of the hour here on Coastal Daybreak.